I never thought I'd be this person, the one who counts every penny, who double-checks the price tags on groceries, who skips outings with friends because even a few dollars feels like too much. But here I am, stuck in this loop of barely making it, and it's exhausting in a way I can't fully put into words. It's not like I'm lazy or careless with money. I work. I work hard. My job pays me just enough to cover rent, utilities, the basics. Sometimes, if I'm lucky, a little extra. But every month, it feels like the bills creep higher, like they're breathing down my neck, pushing me closer to the edge. Rent goes up. Gas prices climb. Even the food on the shelves feels more expensive than it did last month, last year. But my paycheck? That hasn't moved in months, maybe years. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up while my legs get heavier. I find myself making decisions I never thought I'd have to make. Do I buy that prescription now or wait and risk feeling worse? Can I fill the tank halfway or only a quarter and hope I can still get to work? What if I skip lunch today so I can cover a phone bill? These aren't choices anyone should have to consider, but for me, they're routine. And every time I choose to cut something out, a little piece of me feels chipped away. The financial pressure doesn't just touch my wallet, it claws at my mind. There's a dull, constant weight in my chest, a mix of anxiety and exhaustion that doesn't fade with sleep. I lie awake some nights, staring at the ceiling, calculating the next month's expenses in my head, trying to predict where the holes will be, trying to figure out what I can squeeze tighter. It's a loop with no clear exit, and the uncertainty terrifies me. Sometimes, I think about the system, the whole economic environment I'm trapped in. It's this invisible machine that seems designed to keep me just barely afloat. No matter how much I hustle, the cost of living outpaces my earnings, and I'm stuck trying to plug the gaps with whatever I can. It feels like the system is stacked against people like me, and it's hard not to feel small and powerless in the face of it. My social life has taken a hit, too. I used to love meeting friends, going out for coffee, catching a movie. Now, those things feel like luxuries I can't afford. When friends invite me out, I often say no, not because I don't want to be there, but because I can't justify the expense. It stings, feeling left out, watching life go on without me sometimes. I've missed birthdays, dinners, even casual hangouts because I'm too scared of what a small expense might mean for my budget. There's also the emotional toll of this invisible isolation. When your finances are tight, it's hard to share that struggle with others. People want to believe you're doing fine, so I put on a brave face, joke around, and keep my worries to myself. But inside, I feel so alone. Sometimes I wonder if anyone really understands how suffocating it is to live like this, how much it chips away at your confidence and hope. And hope, that's the hardest thing to hold on to. I had dreams once. I wanted to travel, learn new things, maybe go back to school someday. I pictured a future where I wasn't just surviving but thriving. But those dreams have been shelved, postponed indefinitely. When every day is a balancing act between what you need and what you can't afford, planning for the future feels like a cruel joke. How do you invest in tomorrow when you're barely keeping your head above water today? Coping with all this isn't easy. I try to find small moments of relief, a walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library, cooking a simple meal instead of eating out. Sometimes, I reach out to online communities where others share similar struggles. It helps, knowing I'm not alone, even if the challenges feel immense. I've learned to celebrate small victories, making rent on time, finding a discount, getting through the month without unexpected expenses. They might seem minor, but to me, they're lifelines. Despite everything, I'm trying not to give up. There's a stubborn part of me that believes things can get better, that if I keep pushing, keep finding ways to make it work, I might just find a way out of this pressure cooker. It's not always easy to see that light when the days feel long and hard, but it's there. I hold on to it, fragile as it is. I wish people understood that financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about the way it shapes every part of your life. It's about the fear, the frustration, the quiet desperation behind every choice. I wish more people saw that when someone says they're just getting by, it means they're fighting a battle that's hard to win. And maybe, if more people understood that, the system would change, because nobody should feel trapped, like their life is a series of impossible decisions, just trying to keep up with expenses that keep growing faster than their income. So, this is my story. Not a tale of success or failure, but one of real life, messy, painful, and ongoing. I'm here, still trying, still hoping, still surviving. And maybe someday, things will shift enough for those dreams I've shelved to find their way back into my life. Until then, I take it day by day, dollar by dollar, holding on to whatever small sparks of hope I can find. Because that's all any of us really have sometimes. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd find myself in this kind of constant squeeze, like I'm caught in a slow, tightening noose made of bills and expectations that never quite line up with my paycheck. It's not a single moment of crisis but a slow bleed, day by day, month by month. The economic environment we're living in feels like a storm with no end in sight, and I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I graduated from college with a decent degree and what felt like real hope. I had plans, big ones, travel, maybe grad school, a chance to live somewhere new, explore, breathe. But then reality hit, harder and heavier than I imagined. The job I landed barely covers my rent, which itself seems to balloon every few months like some cruel joke. Every time I think I'm catching up, prices have gone up again, groceries, gas, utilities, everything creeping upwards while my paycheck feels smaller by comparison. It's exhausting. Some days I wake up with a pit in my stomach, knowing I have to figure out which bill I'm going to pay late this month, or what expense I'm going to cut out completely. Do I skip buying groceries to cover the electric bill? Do I run my car less, even though it means walking 30 minutes to work? The math never works out, and the weight of it makes me feel like I'm running in place on a treadmill that's speeding up just to mock me. I try to keep track of every dollar, every cent. I have spreadsheets, budgeting apps, reminders. But it's more than numbers, it's the mental exhaustion that hits you at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep because you're calculating whether you can afford to eat out once this month or if you have to eat rice and beans again. It's the shame of turning down invitations to friends' dinners because I know I can't afford it. It's the sinking feeling when I see people my age buying cars, traveling, even owning homes, and I'm still stuck figuring out how to keep my phone service on without going over my budget. Sometimes I think, maybe I'm just not trying hard enough. But it's not that simple. I work full-time, sometimes extra shifts when I can. I don't buy new clothes or gadgets, I don't go to concerts or bars anymore. I cancel subscriptions, I hunt for deals, I clip coupons. Still, it never feels like enough because the system around me is designed to keep moving faster than I can run. The constant pressure makes me anxious, sometimes depressed. I feel a heaviness that's hard to shake, like a cloud that follows me around, whispering that I'm failing, that I'll never get ahead. I avoid opening my bank app because every time I do, I'm reminded of what I don't have. I catch myself daydreaming about a different life, a life where I don't have to budget every meal, where a car repair or a medical bill doesn't send me spiraling into panic. My dreams have been postponed indefinitely. I used to imagine traveling across Europe, learning new languages, maybe moving to a city with more opportunities. I thought about going back to school, but the thought of student loans terrifies me. I wanted to save for a down payment on an apartment, but now I'm just trying to keep my current apartment, which already feels like a luxury. I keep telling myself that if I just get through this year, things will improve. But the next year looks just as grim. Coping with this isn't easy. I talked to a few close friends about it, though not everyone understands. Some say, just get a better job or move to a cheaper place, but it's never that simple when rent is skyrocketing everywhere, and good jobs are scarce or demand long hours that aren't sustainable. I try to find small joys, a walk in the park, a free event, reading books from the library. These little things remind me there's still beauty in the world, even if my bank account doesn't agree. Sometimes I fantasize about what I'd do if I suddenly had financial freedom. Would I finally take that art class? Travel to see family? Or maybe just take a day off without worrying about missing a paycheck? These moments keep me going. They remind me that even though I'm trapped now, my worth isn't defined by my financial situation. I hold on to hope that one day I'll break out of this cycle, not just survive, but thrive. It's hard to admit all this out loud because it feels like admitting defeat. But maybe it's also a form of strength, to acknowledge the reality without giving up. I'm still here, still pushing forward, even when the system seems designed to hold me back. And maybe that's enough, at least for today. I wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach, the same heavy feeling I've carried for years now. It's not just the usual stress of a busy day ahead, it's the deep, gnawing pressure of money, or more precisely, the lack of it. I lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, running through the mental checklist: rent due next week, utilities already overdue, groceries running low, and my credit card statement that I can barely bring myself to open anymore. It's exhausting. It feels like no matter how hard I try, no matter how many hours I put in, I'm always behind. I'm 26, and I'm trapped in this endless cycle where expenses grow faster than any chance I have to catch up. The economy around me feels like this giant, invisible wall pressing down harder every day. Prices spike for the basics: food, gas, rent, while wages barely budge. I work a full-time job, more than one sometimes, but it's still not enough. And I'm not alone, I see it everywhere, in my friends who have stopped answering calls because they don't want to talk about their own financial stress, in the long lines at the food bank, in the stories I read online about people losing their homes or being forced to give up their dreams. It's frustrating, more than frustrating, sometimes it feels hopeless. I remember when I was younger, how I dreamed about what my life would look like by now. I imagined moving into a small apartment of my own, maybe getting a dog, traveling at least once a year, maybe going back to school to finish my degree. Those were real, tangible dreams, and now they feel like distant stars I can see but can't reach. Every month, I have to postpone those dreams. The trip to visit my family gets cancelled because the plane ticket is too expensive. The idea of going back to school feels like a luxury I just can't afford, not when I'm barely covering rent and groceries. And even the thought of getting a pet feels irresponsible. How would I afford vet bills or food? My daily decisions have narrowed down to survival mode. I've gotten so used to skipping meals or choosing the cheapest, least nutritious food that my body feels tired all the time. I ration my phone data, limit my use of electricity at home to save on the bills, and cut out anything that feels like a non-essential expense, even social events with friends, which I miss dearly. Sometimes I tell myself that I'm just being practical, but inside, I feel lonely and disconnected. Money doesn't just buy things, it buys freedom, and without it, I feel caged in. I try to stay positive, to remind myself that this is temporary, that things will get better. But the truth is, the economic environment makes that optimism hard to hold on to. The news is full of stories about inflation, stagnant wages, and economic uncertainty. Every month, the prices go up, but my paycheck stays the same. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm stuck in the same place. I worry about the future a lot, about whether I'll ever be able to save money, build a career that pays enough to live comfortably, or even have the basic security that my parents had when they were my age. Emotions hit me in waves. Some days I'm angry, furious that the system seems designed to keep people like me stuck. Other days, I'm ashamed, like I'm failing somehow because I can't make ends meet. And then there are the moments of quiet despair, where I just sit and feel the weight of it all pressing down on my chest. But amidst all of this, I cling to small pockets of hope. I talk to a few close friends who understand and don't judge. I write down my feelings in a journal to get them out of my head. I remind myself of the strength it takes just to keep going day after day, even when it feels like giving up would be easier. I've learned to be resourceful in ways I never imagined. I scour thrift stores for clothes and household items, learn to cook cheap but healthy meals from scratch, and make a game out of finding free or low-cost things to do on weekends. It's not glamorous, but it helps me feel a little more in control. Sometimes, when I find a small win, like finally paying off a credit card bill or getting a surprise extra shift at work, it feels like a ray of light breaking through the clouds. Despite everything, I still have dreams. I want to build a life where money isn't a source of constant anxiety, where I can wake up and not feel trapped by the weight of bills and debts. I want to study something I love, maybe start a small creative business, or simply save enough to feel secure and independent. These dreams might be postponed, but they haven't disappeared. They remind me who I am beyond the stress and the struggle. Writing this, I realize how important it is to be honest about what so many people go through but rarely talk about openly. Financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about how those numbers shape every corner of our lives, our relationships, our health, our hopes. It's about living in a system that often feels like it's working against us, yet somehow finding the courage to keep moving forward. That's my story, not just about struggle, but about resilience, about the quiet determination to hold on to hope even when it feels impossible. It's hard to pinpoint the exact moment when I first felt truly trapped by money. Maybe it was the day I checked my bank account after paying rent and bills and saw barely enough left for groceries, and even that barely was stretching it. Or maybe it was the slow creep of rising prices everywhere, gas, food, utilities, while my paycheck stayed the same. Each month felt like running on a treadmill that kept speeding up, and no matter how fast I ran, I wasn't getting anywhere. I'm 26, working full-time, holding down a job that pays just enough to keep me afloat but never enough to really breathe. When I was younger, I imagined life would be different by now. I thought I'd have a little financial cushion, maybe start saving for a home, or even just travel somewhere far away for a few weeks to reset. Instead, I live with a constant background noise of anxiety. Will this paycheck cover everything? Am I going to have to skip a bill this month? Should I take a second job? Or maybe, just maybe, can I hold out until my contract renewal, hoping for a raise that never comes? The truth is, every decision feels like a balancing act on a tightrope. I weigh every expense against its impact on my mental and emotional well-being. Do I really need that cup of coffee? Not really. But sometimes, that $3 is a tiny lifeline on a day when everything feels overwhelming. Do I skip buying fresh vegetables this week to save money, knowing I might feel sluggish or sick soon? Unfortunately, yes, because the cheaper options aren't always healthier. The system around me doesn't feel designed for people like me. I'm told to budget, to save, to invest wisely. But how do I save when my paycheck doesn't stretch past the essentials? When rent alone gobbles up more than half my income, and unexpected expenses, a car repair, a medical bill, a friend needing a loan, derail everything? I'm caught in this cycle where expenses climb relentlessly, but my income feels stuck, stagnant, almost invisible in its slow crawl. I've tried to be resourceful, to make sacrifices without losing myself. I cook more at home, shop secondhand, limit outings with friends. But even those small pleasures, like a night out or a new book, feel like distant luxuries now. I see friends posting about vacations, fancy dinners, new gadgets, and I don't resent them. I envy them a little, yes, but mostly I'm sad for myself. For the version of me that dreamed bigger, that imagined a life where money was a tool, not a chain. Emotionally, this constant pressure wears me down. Some days, I wake up with a pit in my stomach, dreading the pile of bills on my desk. Other days, I feel numb, like I'm just moving through the motions without hope or energy. It's exhausting, and it can make me feel invisible, like the struggles I face aren't serious enough, because I have a job, a roof, and food on the table. But mental exhaustion is real, even if it's invisible on a credit report or a paycheck stub. I cope the best I can. I lean on close friends and family who understand without judgment. I try to remind myself of what I do have: health, a stable job, for now, a safe place to sleep. I journal sometimes, pouring out the frustration and fear, hoping to find clarity or at least a release. I've found small pockets of joy in unexpected places: a sunset, a good book borrowed from the library, a long walk, moments that don't cost money but remind me there's more to life than dollars and cents. But I won't lie, the weight of postponed dreams is heavy. I had plans once, to go back to school, to start a creative project, to save up for a small apartment of my own, to travel somewhere new and wide open. Those dreams haven't disappeared, they just feel farther away, sometimes so far it hurts. I've had to shelve them, telling myself maybe next year or when things get better. But every year, things feel just a little worse, and that next year becomes more of a hope than a plan. Sometimes I wonder if it's possible to break free at all. The system feels designed to keep people like me in this endless loop, where working harder doesn't necessarily mean earning more, and where rising costs outpace every effort to get ahead. It's not just about money, it's about dignity, freedom, and the chance to live fully without constant worry gnawing at your mind. Despite it all, I'm still here. Still fighting, still hoping. Because hope is what keeps me putting one foot in front of the other, even on the hardest days. I tell myself that this chapter isn't my whole story, that someday I'll look back on this time and see how it shaped me, how it made me stronger, wiser, more determined. For now, I keep holding on to that hope, even if it feels fragile. I dream of a future where my income grows enough to cover not just the bare essentials, but the things that make life worth living: stability, comfort, freedom. Until then, I navigate this tightrope, one cautious step at a time, trying to find balance in a world that often feels unbalanced. I never imagined my 20s would feel like this, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up every day, no matter how hard I push, and the finish line keeps moving farther away. It's not just the numbers on a bank statement or the paycheck that barely covers rent, it's the weight that presses down on every decision, every hope, every moment of peace I crave. Sometimes I catch myself holding my breath, waiting for some kind of relief that feels just out of reach. When I was younger, I thought that once I had a steady job, I'd finally get a grip on my life. I imagined paying off my student loans, maybe moving into a place that felt like home instead of just a roof over my head, and even taking the occasional weekend trip just to escape the grind. But reality has been something else entirely. The economy shifted, the cost of living ballooned, and wages barely budged. It feels like I'm caught in a system designed to keep me scrambling, where expenses grow faster than my paycheck ever will. Take rent, for example. It's like this invisible monster that eats up more than half my income every month. I share a cramped apartment with 2 roommates, but even then, the cost is crushing. Utilities, internet, groceries, transportation, all of it adds up and creeps higher each year. When inflation spikes, suddenly that $3 coffee or $15 lunch out turns into a luxury I can't justify. I've gotten so used to skipping meals or choosing cheaper, less healthy food options that my energy dips, and with it, my mood. I constantly second-guess every purchase. Is this meal deal really necessary? Should I buy that jacket, or wait until it's absolutely falling apart? Can I afford to call my mom and send her a little money for her birthday? Every dollar feels like it's on a tightrope, balancing between survival and something that feels like living. And there's a gnawing frustration because I know I'm not alone. Millions of people my age are wrestling with the same harsh reality. The pressure bleeds into my mental health in ways I didn't expect. Some days I wake up feeling like I'm sinking, anxiety tightening around my chest as I scroll through bills and overdue notices. Sleep is hit or miss because my brain won't stop running through worst-case scenarios. I hate that this constant financial stress makes me feel so isolated, even though I'm surrounded by friends who are struggling too. There's almost an unspoken rule not to talk about it too much because it's embarrassing, like admitting defeat. Coping has become an art form. I've learned to stretch every dollar, hunting for discounts, using cashback apps, and mastering the art of meal prepping. Sometimes I pick up side gigs just to cover unexpected expenses or save a bit for emergencies. It's exhausting, though. Juggling multiple jobs means less downtime and fewer chances to relax or socialize, which in turn feeds the cycle of stress and burnout. I've had to push back or completely shelve dreams that once felt so attainable. That art course I wanted to take? Put on hold indefinitely. Saving for a trip to visit friends in another city? No chance right now. Even the small pleasures, going to the movies, buying a new book, treating myself to a nice dinner, have to be weighed against the reality of my budget. Sometimes I wonder if this is what adulthood is supposed to be, or if I just got dealt a really tough hand. But there's still a flicker of hope that keeps me going. I remind myself that this isn't forever, even if it feels like it. I try to focus on what I can control, like building new skills at work, networking, or finding ways to improve my financial literacy. I keep a journal where I write down little victories, like managing to save $20 this month or getting through a rough week without giving up. It helps me hold on to a sense of progress, however small. Sometimes I dream about the future, not the wildly unrealistic fantasies, but the simple things, having a stable place that feels like home, being able to support myself without constantly worrying about money, and maybe, just maybe, having the freedom to pursue passions that don't revolve around survival. I want to believe that the sacrifices I'm making now are investments in a better tomorrow. Still, the reality is that every day is a tightrope walk, a balancing act where one misstep can send me tumbling back into uncertainty. It's exhausting, but I'm learning to find strength in vulnerability, in admitting how hard this is, and in reaching out for support when I can. I'm not just surviving, I'm trying to live, even if the system seems set up to make that impossible. If you asked me what I want people to understand, it's this: financial pressure isn't just about money. It's about the way it steals away our time, our health, our dreams, and sometimes even our sense of self. But even in the darkest moments, I'm holding on to the belief that there's more waiting for me on the other side of this struggle. Maybe that's the most honest truth I can share right now. I never imagined that money would feel like such a heavy weight, dragging me down every single day. But here I am, a young adult trying to make my way in a world that feels designed to squeeze every last penny out of me, while barely giving me a chance to breathe. The truth is, financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about feeling trapped, exhausted, and constantly anxious, like I'm on a treadmill that's speeding up but I'm stuck in the same spot. I wake up most mornings with this sinking feeling in my chest. It's not quite panic, but it's close, a dull, persistent worry that sits just beneath the surface. I look at my bank account, and the balance never seems to stretch far enough. Rent alone gobbles up more than half my paycheck, and then there's utilities, groceries, transportation, student loan payments, and the little things that sneak in: medicine, phone bills, and unexpected car repair. Every month, it's the same story. Expenses rise just a bit more, and my income doesn't keep pace. Not really. Sometimes I get a small raise or a side gig pays off, but it's always just a bandage on a slowly growing wound. It feels like running on a tightrope, but the wind keeps picking up. I try to budget carefully, but it's like playing a game where the rules change without warning. The cost of groceries went up again last month, and suddenly the simple dinner I used to make $4.10 costs nearly twice as much. I can't switch to cheaper brands because those often aren't healthy or last as long. So I eat less or skip meals, telling myself it's temporary. But the temporary keeps stretching out longer and longer. I've had to cut back on things that used to bring me joy. No more spontaneous coffee dates with friends, no weekend trips or concerts, no new clothes unless absolutely necessary. Even hobbies that once helped me decompress, like painting or going to the gym, feel like luxuries I can't afford. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if I'm the only one feeling like this, or if everyone is silently struggling behind their carefully curated social media posts. There's a profound loneliness to it all. The financial pressure isolates me because I don't want to burden friends with my worries. And I don't want to admit how much it's wearing me down. Sometimes I feel ashamed, like I'm failing somehow because I can't make my money stretch enough. But the truth is, it's not a failure of will or effort. I work hard, long hours, side gigs, sometimes 2 jobs. I've sacrificed sleep, social time, and even my health. But the system seems rigged. Inflation, stagnant wages, rising housing costs, it's a perfect storm that keeps me barely afloat. What hurts the most is the dreams I've had to postpone. I used to imagine myself traveling, seeing new places, learning new skills, maybe even starting my own business someday. Now, those dreams seem so distant, like stars I can barely see through the smog of everyday survival. Even saving for an emergency feels impossible, let alone for bigger goals like buying a home or going back to school. Every time I think I'm making progress, something unexpected pulls me backward, a broken appliance, a medical bill, or just the relentless rise in living costs. Emotionally, the weight is exhausting. There's this constant undercurrent of stress that spills into everything, my relationships, my self-esteem, my energy. I try to keep a brave face, but sometimes it cracks. I catch myself feeling hopeless, imagining a future where I'm still stuck in this cycle a decade from now. That scares me. I want more for myself, and I want to believe it's possible, but the numbers on my paycheck and my bills paint a different story. Coping isn't easy. I've started journaling to get my thoughts out, and I meditate when I can find the time and mental space. Sometimes I reach out to friends or family, but I hold back because I don't want to be a burden. I've looked into financial counseling and community resources, but those only help a little, if at all. The truth is, this pressure feels like a marathon with no finish line. Still, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't permanent. I keep looking for better opportunities, ways to increase my income, skills to improve my situation. I cling to small victories, a month where I manage to save a little, a good day where I feel proud of how I handled things. I dream of a future where money doesn't dictate every decision, where I can relax without that gnawing anxiety about bills. But for now, I'm stuck navigating a system where expenses keep growing faster than my income, where every day is a balancing act. And maybe that's the hardest part, not just the financial strain itself, but the feeling of being trapped, like no matter how hard I work, I'm running in place. I'm still here, still trying, still hoping. And that, for now, is enough. It's hard to put into words what it feels like to be caught in this slow, grinding trap, where every month feels like a race I can't possibly win. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, money has been this shadow looming over every choice I make, whispering doubt and fear into my thoughts. The world keeps speeding up around me, prices going up faster than my paycheck, and somehow I'm stuck, barely moving forward. I grew up hearing about hard work and making it as if those words were magic spells that guaranteed success. But real life doesn't work like that, at least not for me. My job pays just enough to cover the essentials: rent, utilities, groceries, the occasional bus fare. Every month, I calculate what I owe and then subtract it from what I'll get paid. The leftover? Sometimes it's enough for a cup of coffee with a friend, but more often than not, it barely covers the bus ride back home. The rent, oh, the rent. That's a monster that devours nearly half my paycheck before I even blink. It's a tiny studio apartment with peeling paint and a bathroom that smells like it hasn't been cleaned properly in a while, but it's mine. Well, sort of. It's mine as long as I keep up with the payments, which are rising every year like an unrelenting tide. I remember when I first moved in, the rent was manageable. Now it's so high I sometimes wonder if I should just live out of my car or couch surf with friends. But pride and the fear of losing what little stability I have keep me rooted here. Food is another constant worry. I've become an expert at stretching groceries, buying generic brands, skipping snacks, eating the same cheap meals on repeat. I remember a time when I used to experiment in the kitchen, trying new recipes and treating myself to fresh ingredients. Those days feel distant and almost laughable now. Cooking has become a survival task, not a joy. Sometimes I feel guilty for even wanting something different or better. Like I'm being selfish for dreaming beyond instant noodles and canned beans. Transportation is yet another weight on my shoulders. I used to bike everywhere, but after a bad fall last winter, it's not so easy anymore. Public transit is expensive, and every dollar I spend on a ticket feels like a dollar I'm stealing from my future. Sometimes I skip social events because the bus fare alone is too much. The isolation creeps in slowly, friends make plans I can't join, and invitations dwindle. It's a quiet loneliness that gnaws at me just as much as the bills do. Healthcare scares me, too. I have some minor health issues that require regular medication and checkups, but the costs add up. I sometimes delay appointments or skip doses because I can't afford to take time off work or pay out-of-pocket expenses. The anxiety of what if something worse happens is a constant companion. It's hard to focus on anything else when your body feels fragile and your wallet feels empty. I'm constantly juggling and prioritizing. Should I pay the phone bill or buy groceries this month? Should I fix the leaky faucet or save for an emergency? Every choice feels like a compromise, and every compromise feels like a step backward. It's exhausting, and I don't think many people outside of my circle really understand the pressure. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. There are days when I feel defeated, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of it all. Nights when I lie awake, heart pounding, thinking about all the bills piling up and wondering if I'll ever break free from this cycle. The hopelessness sometimes sinks in deep, making it hard to see a way out. But then, there are moments of quiet resilience, small victories like making it through a tough week or finding a little extra in the budget to send home to my family. I cope in different ways. Sometimes I binge-watch old shows to escape reality, other times I lose myself in music or writing. I talk to close friends when I can, though I try not to burden them too much. Therapy is a luxury I can't afford, so I rely on self-help books and online communities for support. It's not perfect, but it's something. Dreams? I have them, but they're packed away like fragile glass, tucked safely out of reach for now. I used to dream about traveling, seeing new places, experiencing different cultures. I wanted to go back to school, maybe get a degree in something I'm passionate about. I imagined a cozy home filled with books and plants, a life where I didn't have to count every penny. But those dreams feel distant, like a parallel universe where I made different choices or was born with more luck. I remind myself that this isn't forever. I keep telling myself that if I just hold on, keep pushing, something will change. Maybe I'll find a better job, maybe the economy will shift, maybe I'll learn new skills that open doors. I try to believe in a future where I'm not just surviving but thriving. It's hard to keep hope alive when every day feels like a battle, but it's all I have. Being young and struggling financially in today's world is like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while your legs grow heavier. The system is unforgiving, and it's easy to feel invisible, like your efforts don't matter because the deck is stacked against you. But I'm still here. I'm still fighting, even when it hurts. One day, I hope to tell a different story, a story where money isn't a constant source of stress, where I can breathe freely and dream without limits. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, one small step at a time, even if it feels like I'm barely inching ahead. Because giving up isn't an option. I never thought I'd end up feeling like this, like I'm constantly running in place, chasing a goal I can't even see clearly anymore. It's like living in a thick fog where every step forward feels like quicksand dragging me back, no matter how hard I try. I'm 27, and yet some days I feel decades older because of this weight that clings to me, the pressure of money, or rather the lack of enough of it. It's not like I haven't tried. I graduated college with decent grades and a degree I thought would lead somewhere. Instead, it feels like the world's economy is a tidal wave, and I'm just a tiny boat tossed around with no control over the storms. Rent, utilities, groceries, everything goes up every few months. And my paycheck? It barely budges. I make a decent salary, by some standards, but it's like running on a treadmill that speeds up with no pause button. The cost of living surges ahead while my income stays stuck in place. Every morning, I wake up and run through the same mental checklist. How much money do I have? What bills are due this week? Can I afford gas, or should I take the bus again? Should I skip lunch and just eat what's left from last night's dinner? The choices feel endless and exhausting. I'm not just budgeting, I'm constantly negotiating with myself and the world around me, trying to squeeze pennies into dollars that just won't stretch. It's so frustrating to watch prices go up on things I need. The grocery store aisles feel like a minefield. Just buying the basics has become a challenge. I used to enjoy cooking, experimenting with recipes, inviting friends over. Now, I find myself staring at the price tags, calculating which vegetables I can afford this week, or if I should buy canned instead of fresh. And sometimes, I cave and buy the cheaper, less healthy option because it's what fits my budget, even if it's not what's best for my body or mind. Emotions are a complicated thing when you live this way. There's anger, at the system, at the rising costs, at the fact that no matter how hard I work, it feels like I'm falling behind. There's anxiety, too, that pit in my stomach that wakes me up at night, whispering questions I don't want to hear. What if I lose this job? What if rent goes up again? What if I can't pay for insurance and get sick? The uncertainty feels suffocating. Some days, I feel so alone in this, even though I know plenty of people are struggling, too. And sadness, the kind that creeps in quietly, reminding me of all the things I had hoped for but now have to put on hold. I used to dream about traveling, seeing new places, exploring the world with a sense of freedom. Those dreams now feel like luxuries I can't afford. I postponed saving for my own place because the rent is already more than I thought was reasonable. Even starting a family someday feels distant. How can I think about children when I'm not sure I can keep myself afloat? Yet, in the middle of all this, I find small ways to cope. Sometimes it's just a deep breath and reminding myself that I'm not lazy or broken, I'm just stuck in a system that feels rigged against me. I lean on friends when I can, sharing a meal or just venting about the absurdity of it all. I try to celebrate tiny victories, making it through the week without missing a bill, finding a second-hand jacket on sale, or getting a little extra from my side gig. Those moments feel like sparks of light in a long tunnel. I'm learning to redefine what success means to me because the old definitions, owning a home, a new car, fancy vacations, seem so far away. Now, success might just be having a stable job next month or saving a few dollars for a rainy day. I'm trying to hold on to hope that things can improve, even if the path there isn't clear yet. Sometimes I imagine what life might be like if the economy were kinder, if wages grew with costs, if housing wasn't a constant stressor. Would I take classes again? Would I start a small business? Would I finally get a pet to keep me company? Those questions fuel a quiet determination in me to keep pushing forward, to not give up, even when it feels like I'm invisible in this vast system. It's hard to admit all this because society often expects us to be proud, to be adulting flawlessly, but the truth is, being a young adult in this economy is messy and painful. It's filled with sacrifices and compromises, with dreams deferred and daily struggles that don't always have neat solutions. But sharing this story, being honest about it, feels like a small act of reclaiming control, a way to say, I'm here, I'm trying, and I'm more than the sum of my financial stress. Maybe one day I'll look back on this period and see how it shaped me, not as a victim of circumstance but as someone who learned resilience in the face of relentless pressure. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, one paycheck, one meal, one small step at a time. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never imagined my 20s would feel like this, like I'm constantly trying to stay afloat in a sea that's getting rougher by the day. It's not just the numbers on a paycheck or the mounting bills, it's the weight that presses down on every choice I make, every moment I spend wondering if I'm ever going to get ahead, or if I'm just stuck spinning my wheels in place. I work full-time, but the salary barely stretches to cover rent, groceries, utilities, and the little things that make life livable. Sometimes, it feels like expenses grow overnight, rent goes up, gas prices climb, groceries cost more. And me? My paycheck? It's more or less the same as it was 2 years ago. That gap between what I earn and what I need to pay is widening, and I'm stuck right in the middle, trying to bridge it with little to no help. Every month is a balancing act. When the rent comes due, I pause and hold my breath. It's the biggest chunk of my expenses and the one thing I can't miss. I can skip buying new clothes or cut down on eating out. Well, I don't even eat out much anymore, but rent is non-negotiable. So, I make choices around it, juggling the rest of my bills in ways that sometimes feel like walking a tightrope without a safety net. I remember sitting at my kitchen table one evening, staring at a stack of unopened bills, and feeling a wave of hopelessness wash over me. I had just paid the electric bill, which wiped out most of my grocery budget for the week. My stomach twisted with anxiety because I knew I couldn't eat less. I had to figure out how to make it work, somehow. It's this constant tug-of-war between I can't afford this and I have to make it work anyway. There's this gnawing feeling of being trapped. Like I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving further away, faster than I can possibly keep up. I've tried picking up side gigs, but between work and trying to rest my brain, the hours in a day aren't enough. Sometimes, I fantasize about a simpler life, maybe living somewhere cheaper, working less, but those are dreams that feel so distant right now. The economic environment is brutal. Inflation isn't just a headline on the news, it's in the rising cost of milk, the surge in public transport fares, the hike in prescription medication. It's a constant background noise of stress that I carry everywhere I go. Sometimes, I catch myself holding back from doing things that I know would actually help me mentally, like going out with friends or taking a weekend trip, because the cost feels like too much. Even a small expense feels like a luxury I can't afford. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There are days when I wake up and feel like I'm fighting against an invisible force that doesn't care about how hard I work or how carefully I budget. The pressure eats away at my confidence. It's hard not to feel like a failure when you're doing everything right, working, budgeting, sacrificing, and still barely scraping by. It's lonely too, because friends and family often don't see the full picture. Why don't you just ask for help, they say. But help isn't always there, and even when it is, it often comes with strings attached, or it feels humiliating to accept. I cope by holding on to the little things that remind me I'm more than my bank balance. Music, books, the rare nights when I can afford to unwind with a movie or a phone call with someone who understands. I've learned to celebrate small victories, like finding a discount on groceries or paying off a credit card balance. Those moments feel like a crack of sunlight breaking through a gray sky. I used to dream about traveling, going back to school, maybe even buying a place of my own someday. I had plans, big plans that felt so alive and vibrant when I first thought about them. But now, those dreams are shelved, gathering dust as I focus on survival. I remind myself that postponing doesn't mean giving up forever, it just means pausing for now. Still, sometimes the postponement feels permanent, and that's the hardest part. Yet, despite everything, I hold on to hope. Hope that the economy will stabilize, that wages will catch up to the cost of living, that maybe someday, I'll wake up without that knot of anxiety twisting in my gut. I hope for a future where financial pressure doesn't dictate every decision I make, where I can invest in myself and my happiness without guilt. For now, I keep moving forward, one paycheck, one bill, one day at a time. I remind myself that I am more than my financial struggles, that my worth isn't measured by my bank account. It's a quiet, daily battle, but it's mine to fight, and I'm learning to be gentle with myself along the way. If you ask me what I want most, it's to break free from this cycle, not just for me, but for everyone caught in the same storm. To feel secure. To breathe without the weight of money pressing down on my chest. To dream again, without the shadow of "can I afford this?" looming behind every thought. That's the hope I carry forward. It's been years now, but some days it still hits me like a punch in the gut, this relentless squeeze of money that never seems to loosen, no matter how hard I try. I'm 27, working 2 jobs, and somehow, even with everything I do, the bills keep stacking, the rent keeps climbing, and the future feels like this distant, blurry mirage. When I was a kid, I dreamed big. Not in some flashy, unrealistic way, but in a hopeful, quiet kind of way. I wanted to travel, maybe live in a city with a skyline that made me feel alive. I wanted to go back to school someday, to study something that thrilled me, something beyond the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle I watched my parents trapped in. But the economy wasn't just a backdrop to those dreams, it became a cage, tightening its bars little by little, day by day. Right now, waking up feels like gearing up for a battle I never signed up for. I live in a small, cramped apartment that costs more than it should. Every month, rent devours almost half my income before I even get to think about food, transportation, or anything else. Utilities, phone bills, insurance, they all rise like tidewaters that keep swallowing what little I manage to hold on to. And then there's food. I've become an expert at stretching groceries, canned beans, frozen vegetables, generic brands, anything to keep costs down. Eating out is a luxury I can't afford, no matter how much I miss sharing a meal without worrying about the price tag. I've cut corners everywhere. No new clothes except on rare, special occasions. I buy the cheapest shampoo, wait for sales on essentials, and skip doctor's appointments even when I don't feel quite right. Sometimes I wonder if my body will just give up from the strain I put it under, but there's no room for extra expenses in the budget. The work itself isn't easy either. I clock in early at the coffee shop, smiling and pretending I'm fine, even when exhaustion claws at my bones. Then I head to the evening shift at the grocery store, where the fluorescent lights blur into one long, tiring hum. I'm grateful for the jobs, really. I know it could be worse, but the paychecks feel like drops in an ocean of mounting costs. I barely catch my breath before it's time to stretch what's left again, preparing for the next cycle. Friends don't always understand. When they talk about vacations or new gadgets, I smile but keep quiet. I don't want to sound bitter or jealous. I want to be happy for them. But sometimes, when I'm alone, the frustration bubbles up. Why does it feel like no matter how hard I work, the system is set up to keep me barely afloat? Like I'm stuck on a treadmill that speeds up every month. Bills come in faster than raises. The minimum wage hikes announced by the government barely keep pace with inflation, and inflation feels like this invisible tax on every aspect of life, from gas prices to groceries, to the rent that landlords seem to raise with impunity. It's a cycle I can't break. The more I try to save, the more something unexpected happens, a broken phone screen, a car repair, or an emergency dental visit, and suddenly the little buffer I had is gone. I've had to postpone dreams I once thought were mine to chase freely. College? Too expensive without a safety net. Starting my own business? The thought terrifies me because I don't have the financial cushion to take risks. Buying a home? Laughable in this market, even with 2 incomes. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing something wrong or if this is just how life is supposed to be now, trapped in a loop of working to survive rather than living to thrive. Emotionally, it's draining. There are nights when I lie awake, heart pounding, staring at the ceiling, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. The anxiety is a constant companion. What if I lose one job? What if rent goes up again? What if my health gives out because I'm ignoring it? I've learned to hide it, to keep the panic tucked away beneath a calm exterior, but inside, the stress gnaws at me. To cope, I've found small pockets of relief. A walk in the park when the weather's nice, the warmth of a good book borrowed from the library, or a late-night call with a friend who understands the struggle. These moments don't solve anything financially, but they remind me I'm not alone in feeling this way. Despite everything, hope still flickers. I hold on to it carefully, like a fragile flame. I remind myself that this isn't permanent, even though it often feels like it. I dream of a day when my income finally outpaces my expenses, when I can stop choosing between paying rent and buying groceries. I dream of stability, not luxury, just enough to breathe easier. Some days, I imagine going back to school, maybe night classes once the workday is over. It's a long shot, but maybe if I can build new skills, find a better paying job, the cycle can break. Until then, I keep going, because giving up isn't an option. The future might be uncertain and far off, but it's the only thing I have to hold on to. Living with ongoing financial pressure feels like being caught in quicksand. The harder I struggle, the deeper I sink. But even trapped, even weary, I haven't stopped reaching for a lifeline. Maybe one day, I'll pull myself out. Maybe one day, these stories of struggle will be the past, and my dreams will finally have room to grow. Until then, I survive, one small step at a time. Some mornings, I wake up with a tightness in my chest before I even open my eyes. It's this quiet, persistent pressure, not from anything dramatic happening overnight, but from the relentless weight of knowing that everything I need to survive feels just a little further out of reach than the day before. Bills, rent, groceries, gas, everything is inching up faster than my paycheck can keep pace, and the gap between where I am and where I want to be only seems to widen. I'm 26, and I thought by now life would feel more stable, more manageable. But instead, I find myself constantly calculating, planning, and pruning my daily choices to stretch every dollar, like I'm playing some cruel game I didn't sign up for. It's not just about money, it's about the creeping anxiety that this cycle might never end, that no matter how hard I work, the system is set up to keep me on a treadmill, running faster but never really moving forward. I live in a small apartment in the city, tiny, cramped, and always just barely affordable. When I first moved in 2 years ago, the rent was manageable, though still a significant chunk of my income. Now, it's jumped twice, and with every increase, I feel the pinch in my gut tighten. The landlord tells me it's just the market, but for me, it feels like a slow squeeze, an invisible hand tightening the noose bit by bit. Every morning, I sit at my small kitchen table with a cup of black coffee and stare at the numbers in my budget app, watching categories like utilities and food creep higher while my paycheck stays the same. Electricity went up again last month, something about the energy crisis driving costs up. Gas prices are ridiculous, which makes commuting exhausting both physically and financially. I work as a customer service rep at a call center, not glamorous, but steady enough. Except steady doesn't feel like a safety net anymore, it feels like a thin thread I'm clinging to. Shopping for groceries has become a strategic mission. I buy in bulk when something's on sale, but fresh fruits and vegetables are a luxury I can only afford sporadically. I often skip meals or eat the cheapest options, knowing it's not good for my health, but I can't justify spending more on food when rent and utilities are non-negotiable. I tell myself it's temporary, just until I save a bit, but the timeline keeps slipping away. Social life? Forget it. My friends invite me out for drinks or dinner, but I decline more often than I'd like. It hurts to say no, especially when they don't always understand why. The invitation becomes a reminder of what I can't afford, and the loneliness creeps in slowly. I sometimes catch myself isolating, not because I don't want connection, but because the cost of connection feels too high. Sometimes I lie awake at night, scrolling through job postings, wondering if I should just bite the bullet and move back in with my parents. The thought makes my chest ache. I want independence, I want to feel like I'm building something of my own. But the financial pressure makes it feel like I'm running in place, stuck in a system that rewards stability only if you start with privilege. I didn't. I postponed dreams I once held close. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond this city that feels like a cage. I wanted to take a course, learn something new, maybe switch careers someday. I wanted to have a cushion, some savings so I wouldn't panic every time a bill arrived or an unexpected expense popped up. Those dreams feel so far away now, almost naive. What keeps me going, honestly, is the hope that this is just a phase, that someday I'll break free. I imagine a future where I'm not anxious every time I open my bank app. I picture myself in a place where I can breathe easier, make choices based on what I want, not what I can barely afford. But that hope is fragile. It's easy to feel trapped when the world around you keeps telling you that prices go up, wages stay the same, and you just have to tighten your belt a little more. Some days, I cope by distracting myself with small pleasures, a walk in the park, a book from the library, a call with a friend. Other days, the weight feels crushing, and I let myself feel the frustration and sadness. I've learned that pretending everything is fine only makes it harder. Vulnerability is scary, but it's also a lifeline, a way to remind myself I'm not alone in this struggle, even if it sometimes feels that way. I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring out how to navigate this economic squeeze, how to protect my mental health, and how to keep my dreams alive even when they feel distant. But I know this, I want to be more than just someone surviving paycheck to paycheck. I want to build a life where financial pressure doesn't dictate every choice, where I can breathe freely and plan for a future that feels bright, not bleak. For now, I'll keep waking up each day, making the tough decisions, and holding on to that flicker of hope. Because if I don't, who will? I never imagined my 20s would feel like this, like walking a tightrope over a pit that keeps getting wider no matter how fast I move forward. Every morning, I wake up with this knot in my stomach, the same one I've had for years now, the one that tightens every time I think about money. It's like I'm stuck in this invisible trap where my expenses are a tidal wave, and my income is just a tiny raft barely keeping me afloat. The world around me keeps shouting about growth, opportunity, and success, but for me, it feels like a constant battle just to survive day to day. It wasn't always like this. When I graduated college, I was hopeful. I had a decent job lined up, a modest apartment, and plans. Big plans. I wanted to travel, to save up for a car, maybe even think about buying a place someday. But almost immediately, reality started chipping away at those dreams. Rent hikes, utility bills, groceries, everything seemed to rise faster than my paycheck. I remember my first shock, the rent increase notice in the mail. Just a few $100s more, they said. Market adjustment, they called it. I called it a punch in the gut. The pressure isn't just about the numbers. It's about the choices that keep shrinking. Some days, I stare at my bank account and wonder how to stretch it to cover both the essentials and the little comforts that make life bearable. Do I eat out this week or save the money for that doctor's visit I've been postponing? Do I skip the gym membership and exercise at home, even though the gym is the one place where I feel like I can breathe? These small decisions add up, and sometimes, they crush me with the weight of what I'm losing. I try to be careful, really. I track every cent, make budgets, clip coupons, shop sales. But the bills don't care about my plans or my sacrifices. Car insurance went up again last month. Gas prices climb like there's no end. I'm paying off student loans that seem like a dark cloud hanging over me forever. It's exhausting. I find myself holding back on social invitations because even a dinner with friends means another dent in my wallet. I'm scared to say no all the time, but it's the only way to survive financially. It makes me feel isolated, like I'm missing out on the parts of life that feel joyful and human. The emotional toll is maybe the hardest part. There's this quiet shame that creeps in, a voice telling me I'm not doing enough, that I'm failing somehow. I see people around me buying new gadgets, going on vacations, upgrading their lifestyles, and I wonder what I'm doing wrong. But deep down, I know it's not just me, it's the system. A system designed to keep people like me scrambling, always a step behind. It's a constant anxiety that I carry, sometimes so heavy it wakes me up at night. How do I break free? When will things get better? Some days, I let myself dream, even if those dreams feel out of reach. I imagine waking up without financial fear, having the freedom to say yes to things without calculating the cost first. I dream about moving to a place where the rent doesn't swallow half my paycheck, where I can afford a reliable car that doesn't need constant repairs, where I can start saving for the future instead of just surviving the present. But then reality sneaks back in, and those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful but impossible to grasp. I've had to postpone so many things. Buying a home, starting a family, pursuing further education, even simple pleasures like hobbies or weekend getaways. Every time I put these off, I feel a little more disconnected from the life I imagined for myself. The postponements accumulate like a shadow, a reminder of what I've sacrificed just to stay afloat. Yet, despite it all, I hold on to hope. Hope that change will come, that my hard work will eventually pay off, that the system will shift in a way that allows people like me to live without fear. I remind myself that this is just one chapter, not the whole story. I cling to the small victories, the days when I make it through without overdrafting, the moments when I find joy in simple things, the times I connect with friends who understand without judgment. I wish I could say I have it all figured out, that I'm navigating this perfectly. But the truth is, some days, I'm scared and overwhelmed. I'm tired and frustrated. But I'm still here, still trying, still hoping. Because what else can I do? I want to believe in a future where I'm not trapped by money, where I can breathe freely and dream boldly again. Until then, I'll keep walking this tightrope, step by careful step, searching for balance in a world that often feels stacked against me. This is my reality, honest, raw, and ongoing. And if you hear this story, know that you're not alone. I wake up every morning feeling the weight of a world I didn't exactly choose but somehow got caught in. It's this constant, gnawing pressure, like invisible hands tightening around my chest. The bills, the rent, the groceries, the student loans, they all seem to grow faster than I can catch up, like an endless tide washing away any small sense of security I try to build. It's exhausting, and it's lonely. I'm 26, trying to carve out a life in a city that's become a minefield for anyone without a trust fund or a golden ticket. I work a full-time job that pays just enough to keep me afloat but never enough to let me breathe easy. Every paycheck feels like a temporary reprieve, a brief moment where I can pretend I'm okay before reality claws back in with overdue notices and unexpected expenses. The economic environment around me feels like it's rigged, a race where the finish line keeps moving further away the faster I run. Some mornings, I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, the silence around me loud with all the things I can't afford. The thought of getting sick terrifies me because even a small medical bill could shatter what little I have saved. The rent's gone up again this year, as if the landlord thinks my paycheck swells with inflation. The grocery store prices make me second-guess every item I put in my cart, weighing the choice between fresh vegetables or the cheaper, less nutritious options. It's a daily calculus of survival, a mental spreadsheet running in the background of every moment. I remember a time not so long ago when I dreamed differently. I imagined traveling the world, finishing a master's degree, maybe even starting a small business or writing a novel. But those dreams feel distant now, luxuries I've had to put on hold indefinitely. Instead, I find myself scraping by, doing side gigs just to keep up with the rising cost of living. The hustle is real, but it's also soul-crushing. It leaves little room for joy or rest. The system feels like a trap. I save diligently, trying to be responsible, but it never feels like enough. Inflation eats away at my savings, rent demands their share, and my paycheck? It barely stretches beyond essentials. I've had to say no to friends more times than I can count, skipping social outings or birthdays because I can't justify spending on anything non-essential. The isolation creeps in, gnawing at my mental health. Anxiety and self-doubt aren't just occasional visitors, they're almost permanent roommates now. Yet, I cope the best I can. I've started meditating, trying to find small moments of peace amid the chaos. I journal my thoughts, hoping that writing it all down somehow lightens the load. I reach out to friends when I can, though I hide the full extent of my struggles because I don't want to be a burden. Sometimes, late at night, I scroll through social media and feel that sharp sting of envy mixed with sadness, seeing people living seemingly carefree lives, traveling, buying homes, chasing dreams. It's a bitter reminder of what feels just out of reach. But amidst all this, there's still a flicker of hope. I cling to it fiercely. I hope for a day when I can afford to breathe freely, to invest in myself without counting every cent. I dream of owning a small apartment, not out of luxury, but out of necessity, a place to call mine where rent won't dictate every decision. I hope to finish that master's degree someday, even if it means taking one step back to take 2 steps forward. And maybe, just maybe, I'll get to write that novel I've tucked away in my heart for years. For now, I navigate this economic maze the best I can. I'm learning to find strength in vulnerability, to accept that it's okay to struggle and to ask for help. The system might feel rigged, but I refuse to let it define my worth or extinguish my dreams. They might be postponed, but they're not gone. I hold on to that, even when the nights are long and the days are heavy. Because at the end of the day, all I really want is a chance, to live, to grow, and to someday look back and say I didn't give up. I wake up most mornings feeling like I'm already behind. Not physically, my bed is still warm, my alarm hasn't even gone off yet, but mentally, emotionally, financially, I'm lagging. It's like starting a race with a heavy backpack I can't take off, no matter how much I wish I could. The weight is the constant, gnawing pressure of money, or the lack of it, and it shapes every thought, every decision, every hope I hold on to. I'm 26, working a job that pays enough to cover rent and utilities, but barely enough to feel like I have any breathing room. The cost of living rises around me like a tide that won't stop coming in, and no matter how fast I run, the water keeps climbing higher. I watch prices jump, groceries, gas, insurance, and my paycheck stays the same, inching up maybe a little once a year but never enough. It's like the system is designed to keep me just scraping by, always one step away from falling under. Some mornings, I stare at my bank account on my phone and feel my chest tighten. There's always that knot in my stomach when I think about how the rent is due in a few days, or how my car needs new tires, or how a medical bill I thought was behind me suddenly resurfaces. I remind myself, this is normal. This is just life, but deep down, I know it's not supposed to be this relentless. When I was younger, I dreamed differently. I imagined having the freedom to travel, to move to a city where the opportunities felt endless. I wanted to save for a down payment on a house, to feel a sense of security instead of this constant uncertainty. I wanted to go back to school, maybe start a career in something I'm passionate about. But those dreams feel like distant echoes now, faint and fragile, muffled by the loud roar of monthly bills and the daily grind. Sometimes, I catch myself daydreaming about quitting everything, walking away from this endless loop of financial juggling. But reality pulls me back hard. There's no safety net here, no break button. Every choice is weighed in dollars and cents. Even the smallest decisions, a coffee out, a night with friends, a new jacket, are filtered through the lens of affordability. I've become a master at cutting corners, coupon clipping, meal prepping, choosing the cheapest utilities, and putting off doctor appointments. It's exhausting, like living life in grayscale, always sacrificing color for survival. My emotional well-being is tangled in this financial web. Some days, I feel invisible, like I'm shouting into the void and no one hears the strain in my voice. The anxiety builds quietly but fiercely, creeping into conversations, coloring interactions with friends and family who don't always understand why I can't join in or why I seem withdrawn. I worry about being a burden, about failing to live up to expectations, even my own. Yet, amidst the pressure, I find ways to cope. I write sometimes, pouring my frustrations into words I don't say aloud. I lean on the few close friends who understand enough to listen without judgment. I try to find small moments of joy, a sunset on a walk, a good book borrowed from the library, laughter over a cheap meal shared with someone who cares. These little pockets of peace remind me there's more to life than numbers on a screen. At night, when the world is quiet and the worries settle just enough to let me breathe, I let myself dream again. I imagine a future where I'm not constantly fighting to stay afloat, a future where I can save without fear, where I have choices instead of limitations. I picture a home that feels like mine, not just a temporary roof over my head. I think about going back to school, about starting fresh, about building a life where I'm not defined by my financial struggles. But I also know those dreams require more than hope. They need change, systemic, structural change that feels out of my hands. For now, I carry on, day by day, step by step, holding on to those fragile dreams while navigating a reality that often feels like a maze with no exit. I'm trapped in a system where expenses grow faster than income, where financial stability seems like a moving target just out of reach. Still, I refuse to let this define me completely. I am more than my bank balance, more than my unpaid bills. I am someone who keeps fighting, who keeps dreaming, who believes, even in the smallest way, that one day, this weight will lift and I'll finally be able to run freely, unburdened, into a future I've earned. I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck in this endless loop where every month feels like a race I'm destined to lose. I'm 26, working full-time, juggling a side gig, and still, somehow, money is this ghost I can never quite catch. It's like I'm running on a treadmill set to a speed faster than I can handle, and no matter how hard I push, the ground keeps slipping under my feet. The first time I truly felt the weight of financial pressure was right after college. I had this big plan, like most do, land a decent job, start saving, maybe travel a little, then eventually get a place of my own. But the economy had other ideas. Entry-level jobs paid barely enough to cover rent in my city, and the cost of living seemed to be climbing every day. Groceries, utilities, transportation, it all felt like a slow squeeze tightening around my chest. I remember sitting at my kitchen table one night, staring at bills spread out like a cruel jigsaw puzzle I had to solve but had no pieces for. The numbers never added up. Rent was the biggest burden. The one-bedroom apartment I share with a roommate still takes almost half my paycheck. It's not a fancy place, just a small, aging building with creaky floors and thin walls. Sometimes I lie awake at night listening to neighbors argue or the hum of the heating system fighting to keep us warm. I'm grateful for the roof over my head, but the thought of rent hikes always lurks somewhere in my mind, a shadow I can't shake. Each increase feels like a shove closer to the edge. Then there's food. I used to love cooking, trying new recipes and experimenting in the kitchen. Now, I plan meals based on sales and discounts, buying the cheapest versions of everything. Fresh produce is a luxury reserved for rare splurges. I've gotten good at stretching ingredients, turning a few potatoes and some canned beans into 3 meals, but it's not the life I imagined. Sometimes I find myself choosing convenience over health because the clock runs out, or because a microwave meal costs less than a fresh salad. Transportation is another trap. I don't own a car because the costs, insurance, gas, maintenance, are impossible to justify. So I take public transit, which isn't cheap either, and it means longer commutes and less time for myself. I've missed social events because I couldn't afford the bus fare or the extra coffee to keep me going on a late-night shift. There's this constant balancing act between income and expenses, but expenses have this insidious way of growing faster. Utility bills spike in winter, healthcare costs sneak up when I catch a cold, and unexpected expenses, like a broken phone or a leaking faucet, feel catastrophic. I've learned to dread the sound of a ringing phone, fearing it might be another bill collector or an unexpected charge. Emotionally, it's exhausting. The stress gnaws at me, a dull ache beneath the surface that doesn't go away. Some days I feel ashamed, like I'm failing to adult properly. I scroll through social media and see friends traveling, buying new cars, moving into fancy apartments. I remind myself that social media is a highlight reel, but the comparisons still sting. The weight of financial anxiety spills into my relationships, too. I often decline invitations or stay quiet about my struggles because I don't want to be a burden or sound like I'm complaining. There's a loneliness that comes with this kind of pressure, a feeling that I'm navigating a storm no one else can really understand. But I'm not completely broken. I've found ways to cope, to survive. I keep a detailed budget, tracking every penny, finding small ways to save, like canceling unused subscriptions or cooking meals in bulk. I've learned to say no without guilt, which is harder than it sounds. There's a community of people online who share tips and support, and knowing I'm not alone helps. I talk to a close friend sometimes, opening up about the fear and frustration, and it lightens the load, even if just a little. I still hold on to my dreams, though they feel like distant stars sometimes. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond this city's gray skyline. I dreamed of going back to school for something I love, maybe art or writing, instead of just the safe career path I took out of necessity. I hope to buy a little home someday, a place to call my own, not just a temporary stopover. But those dreams have been postponed indefinitely, shelved like fragile glass I'm too scared to handle right now. Sometimes I wonder if I'm trapped in a system designed to keep people like me struggling. The wages don't keep pace with rising costs. The safety nets feel threadbare. It's like climbing a mountain where the summit keeps moving higher. I question if hard work is enough anymore, or if luck and connections play a bigger role than I ever realized. Yet, despite it all, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this phase is temporary, even if it doesn't feel that way every day. I celebrate small victories, a month where I save a bit more, a project at work that gets recognized, a night out with friends that doesn't break the bank. These moments are lifelines. Writing this down helps too. It's like breathing out some of the weight that's been pressing in. Maybe sharing this story will remind someone else that they're not alone, that this struggle, as isolating as it feels, is a shared experience for many. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us speak up, things will start to change. For now, I keep moving forward, step by step, paycheck by paycheck, holding tight to the hope that one day, I'll break free from this financial trap and finally start living the life I've dreamed of. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm caught in a cycle that spins faster than I can keep up with, no matter how hard I try. It's this constant squeeze, this slow burn of stress that follows me through every choice I make, every dollar I spend. At 27, I'm supposed to be building a life, feeling some momentum, maybe even a little hope for the future. But instead, I feel trapped in a system that seems designed to keep me exactly where I am, scrambling, just to cover the basics. I graduated college with a decent degree, a little bit of student debt, and a head full of dreams. I imagined getting a steady job, paying off loans, maybe moving out of my cramped apartment, and eventually saving enough to travel or buy a car, or even just go out with friends without checking my bank account 3 times first. But those dreams? They've been pushed further and further away. Every month, expenses rise, the rent creeps up, utilities spike, groceries cost more than I remember, and even the coffee I allow myself feels like a luxury. And my paycheck? It's barely keeping pace, if at all. Some days, I wake up with this heavy pit in my stomach. I lie there for a few minutes, calculating in my head, can I afford breakfast today? Will I have enough for the bus pass this week? Should I skip lunch again? It's exhausting. Not just physically, but emotionally. I feel like I'm constantly making choices between survival and comfort always loses. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but the paycheck feels like it's shrinking. Like the system is rigged to keep expenses growing faster than incomes. And I'm caught in the middle, trying to hold it all together. There's this helplessness that creeps in. I see headlines about inflation, about the economy slowing down, about corporations raising prices because they have to. But I don't feel like I'm part of a bigger system. I feel invisible, like a statistic that no one really sees. The people who are supposed to help, the policies meant to protect us, feel distant and ineffective. Meanwhile, my rent increased by $150 this year, groceries are up 20%, and my student loan payments didn't budge. It's like a slow chokehold, tightening with every bill. I've had to learn to live smaller. It's not just about cutting back, it's about reshaping my life into something affordable. I stopped going out to eat except for special occasions. I quit my gym membership and started jogging outside, even in the rain. I shop sales, clip coupons, buy the generic brand, and sometimes skip meals if the money is tight. I've stopped treating myself to little things because even a $5 coffee feels like a guilty indulgence. Friends ask why I don't join them at events, and I smile and say I'm busy or tired. The truth is, I can't afford it, and I'm ashamed of that. I feel like I'm missing out on moments that are supposed to matter when you're young. The emotional toll is heavy. I'm constantly anxious about money. What if the car breaks down, or there's an emergency? I lie awake at night wondering if I'll ever catch up or if I'm just sinking deeper. Sometimes, I get angry, at the system, at the world, at myself for not being able to make it work. Other times, I just feel numb, going through the motions without hope. But deep down, there's a quiet sadness for the dreams I've had to put on hold. I wanted to travel, to explore the world, to live in a place that felt more like me. I wanted to save enough to start thinking about a home of my own someday. Instead, I'm living day to day, putting out financial fires, and trying to keep the anxiety from overwhelming me. Coping has been a journey. I try to find small moments of joy, a good book borrowed from the library, a walk in the park, a phone call with a friend. I've started journaling, just to get the thoughts out of my head. I also lean on my support network when I can, though I hate burdening anyone with my problems. Therapy helps, but it's another expense I have to carefully budget for. Sometimes, I remind myself that this is temporary, that things can change. But it's hard to hold on to that hope when every day feels like a battle. I wonder what life would be like if expenses stopped rising so fast, or if wages kept pace with the cost of living. Would I still feel trapped? Or could I breathe a little easier? Would I still have to say no to friends, to opportunities, to experiences? The thought of breaking free, of finally having some financial stability, feels both distant and precious. It's a fragile dream that keeps me going when the days get tough. In the end, I try to be honest with myself. I'm not just struggling with money, I'm struggling with the way this economic environment shapes my choices, my emotions, and my future. It's a slow grind that chips away at confidence and joy. But even in this pressure cooker, I'm trying to hold on to who I am beneath the financial stress, the person who still dreams, who still hopes, who still believes that maybe, someday, the balance will tip in my favor. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.